So when you're doing your first edit, are you reading everything through? You're going chapter by chapter, like process wise, how do you tackle it?
So it's interesting because, yes, in some ways it's good to go all the way through before suggesting any developmental edits, right? You can do all the small ones as you go. Um, but a lot of times you want to reach the very end of the book before you make major, massive overhaul type
Mhm.
suggestions. However, I really believe in kind of encountering the book as a raw regular reader, like your layman's reader. And I actually really discourage authors from telling me what their book is about or telling me the plot or explaining anything while I'm first doing my first read through. It's quite damaging when that happens. Even when a hybrid publisher will give me a diagnosis, um, I almost don't want to read it because I think encountering the material raw as a natural reader is so important. So you can make some developmental suggestions as you go. There will be things that bother me in the moment that will bother other readers. It's all about the reader. Many of my comments in the margins say the reader wouldn't like this, when really I mean I don't like this, and most likely a lot of readers won't. So it's all about the reader experience. So you can actually make a lot of developmental edits going through. You can say, this isn't plausible. I'm hitting a bump here. This couldn't really happen. Or you've just introduced a character out of the blue. We need some background or to be eased in. And why is this character being introduced 100 pages in? They're important. Maybe they should have been in the story earlier. So changes like that you do encounter along the way. And you don't have to have read the whole book to hit bumps, right? Um,
Sure.
so
How do you deal with plausibility when you're doing something that is more fantasy, fictional, not fictional, a bit like more out there?
Right.
Um,
Um, that's a good question too. A lot of that has to do with, are they creating a good kind of suspension of disbelief system? Or am I constantly getting hung up on these things that don't feel plausible? And that's largely related to, are the characters authentic? Or is this fantasy kind of really plot driven where you're focused on the plot? Are we losing ourselves in the world enough? Is the world painted accurately? Um, a reader's willing to accept anything. But that's a really good question because plausibility issues are very different in fantasy or YA, or even things like psychological thrillers and stuff like that. Or there can be books that are not very fantasy oriented but have elements of fantasy, right? Maybe there's a ghost but really it's a family story. So that varies from book to book as well, and largely it's about, have you created the world and the set of characters in an authentic way?
yeah. And I imagine, is it internally consistent?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I'm working on the fourth book of a series, a really wonderful series by an author of the name of Leonie Waithman right now. She's written a series by the name The King's Chosen. And so 4 books, pretty hefty YA fantasy books, and all that plausibility stuff that you're talking about, not only does it have to be consistent throughout those books, but it has to be slowly developed. You don't want to whack the reader over the head with it all at once. And the story is about a young boy who's given powers and he is the king's chosen and he's slowly discovering those powers. So is that arc consistent too? And do those powers feel we're willing to believe them as long as they're given to us in a natural way? And it can get very nitty gritty and substantive in nature as well. Like, did you word that right when he's, entering somebody else's head, for instance, to hear their thoughts? Is that natural, or does it kind of disrupt the moment and distract the reader and have the reader feel the author's hand, which is something I really focus a lot on, is making sure that the author's hand is not heavy in the book, that there's so many ways that authors kind of insert themselves unintentionally into the book, even if they are working, say, in a close third person point of view, where we really should be in the shoes of a main character or a set of revolving characters that change in each chapter. Or are we kind of feeling their presence a little too much? That can be very distracting
Yeah.
for readers.
Yeah.